Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 7th installment of the Let's Lock It Down webinar series. Today we'll be talking about the ATC Super Support Team. My name is Chris Groh. I'm a member of the Delta team. And with me I have Brandi
Brandi Kathman, team lead of Super Support.
So today we'll be broadening up the scope of the Let's Lock It Down series slightly. It's historically been focused on cybersecurity, and we're going to broaden that as we continue to do these series into the future. So our first kind of step into that broadening of the topics is talking about ATC Super Support Team. We'll also be a little bit different today with our style. So it'll be a little bit of PowerPoint and discussion, but then we'll open it up to a Q&A with Brandi and give her a chance to elaborate on some of the items that Super Support's handling on a day-to-day basis. Throughout the webinar, there's a Q&A feature as well. So if you have any questions throughout, I'll be monitoring that portion of the webinar, and we'll try and answer them as we move through. So to kick things off, I wanted to start with the Delta model here at ATC. You've probably seen this before. And the reason we wanted to start here is because central to it is Super Support. And so I'll walk through this briefly. It's how we run each of our client engagements from soup to nuts with any new opportunity. And I want to run through that briefly, and then we'll talk about how that transitions into Super Support. So to begin, we always start with discovery and strategy. This is our chance to learn more about our clients, what their pain points are, and a little bit more about their team and what they're looking for in the future. And then it gives them a chance to learn a little bit more about us as well. So that's the discovery and strategy portion. We then move into the assessment and audit. And this is where we've learned a little bit more about them, but we're going to take a deep dive under the hood. What sort of services do you have by site, by bucket? What are you paying for? When are these contract terms up? So we're going to be diving through invoices, customer service records, contracts, and really get a deep and technical view of your current environment. And that really helps us before we even start thinking about what the future is going to look like. We want to make sure we understand what there is today. Are there gaps? Are there redundancies? What are you paying for? So that's really important to us to really get an extension of getting to know you. Then we'll start to look about the future. And that's the design and architecture phase. What are the requirements for whatever solution, whatever pain point you're trying to solve? What are those requirements moving forward? What are some decision criteria? How are you going to, select these vendors that we're going to bring to you? What's important to you? A weighted decision criteria, and kind of plan out that future. From there, we've got our marching orders. We have a portfolio of 700 plus vendors. Now we have your requirements, what your decision criteria are. We're going to go out to RFP with this to our portfolio of providers, narrow them down to a handful, meet with them, and eventually bring you typically 3 vendors to set up demos, have conversations, get to learn more about you, how they can solve your pain points. That whole process is eventually going to dwindle down to 1 or 2 vendors, maybe some final calls, where you eventually land on that exact right solution because we've gotten to know you in discovery and strategy, because we've taken a deep dive, a look under the hood with the audit and assessment. We've talked about your future requirements and what you're looking for. That helps us all, which is our vision, or our mission rather, is landing on the exact right solution through expertise, process, and partnerships. And this is that process that's driving us to that solution. We'll help with contract negotiations, making sure you're getting the appropriate price, the terms and conditions align with what's right for your business. And then we don't walk away either. We are along for the ride with project implementation, making sure that the vendor that was landed on is being held accountable to what was promised. Looking out for risks that we've seen on countless other projects, just making sure the project continues to go smoothly, sitting on your side of the table, and being, assistance that way. And that's, the outside of the Delta process. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I think what really differentiates us is our super support that's at the heart of all of this. And so after that project implementation is complete, just like before, we don't walk away. We do a warm handoff to our super support team. We don't want to be siloed at all in our organization. And so the same white glove experience that you had through the Delta process, we want to have, with the super support team. And that's where that warm handoff with the client, the Delta team lead, and a member of the super support team happens. And so, Brandi, I'll turn it over to you for your perspective on that.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the handoff actually a little bit. During that handoff, just to give an idea of how that works, from the Delta model and that process, the Delta team does an extremely great job at the audit and the assessment, everything that you have under that hood, and the pain points that your business has, and even the incentive or the projects that you have planned for your own business, either in the current year or in a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, etc. So that handoff is the first differentiator of super support. Not a lot of providers or organizations are going to say, okay, we have implemented the services that you have sourced from us. Now it's all on you. It's going to the support team saying, this is what we discovered under the hood. This is what you're taking over, and making sure that everyone is on the same page. We know what we're getting into from a support perspective. The clients know, kind of putting even a face to a name with who's on the other side of who they're contacting for help or for requests. So having that handoff has been extremely powerful in the engagement and the partnership, going back to our mission statement, the partnerships across the board with everyone involved. The other thing that is definitely important to know about that process is our vision and what ATC does. Our vision is transformative outcomes driven by people who care, and every single client that goes through this process is going to feel that they are cared about. Like, we care about building into the IT community. We care about the accomplishments that the business has. And we want to make sure that what we put in front of you is a good fit for you. It's catered for you. It's not out of the box where we say everyone in the industry does this and this is just how you're going to do it. It's extremely catered to whatever needs you have are.
Perfect. So that's how super support kind of aligns in with our Delta process. And Brandi, I'll give you a chance now to just kind of give us your high-level overview of super support, the goal of it, what you guys are doing, and then we'll migrate into that Q&A session.
Yeah, of course. So our goal is to be a value add above and beyond what you're getting from the provider perspective, right? So Chris talked about land on the right solution for you, but it doesn't stop there. And sometimes when you work with other providers in the industry, they may not have all of their support at a level that we think it should be at. So this is kind of our additional investment into the partnerships, both with our clients and also with the providers that we're working with. We try to break those stereotypes, right? So if you think about a normal support engagement, it's very transactional. It's very, I have to call some random 800 number that I can't remember, have to look it up every single time. I'm talking to someone that I don't know. I don't have a relationship built with them. And all they're trying to do is just get the information, the basics down, and put me into a black hole that follows in line with every other task that they have. We try to separate ourselves from that. And how we do that is there's multiple ways to contact us, whether that be through email or through a phone number or through web chat. Design it so that you can choose how to reach out to us that's best for you. And then we accommodate for that. So all of those channels come into the same team, the same group of people that you get to build a personalized relationship with. And we also have all of the details from the audit and the assessment that was started in the beginning of the relationship with ATC. Those audits and assessments are extremely detailed. It includes, your circuit IDs, IP information, account numbers. When you contact ATC Super Support, you don't have to spend the first 10, 15 minutes explaining who you are, what you're trying to do, or how things should work. We already have that understanding in the beginning of, I know generally how your customers, how your consumers communicate with your business. And I want to make sure that the solutions we're recommending is aligning with how you want to do it.
Cool. So let's, we can take the slide down here briefly and kind of turn this into, Q&A style conversation. And I guess my first one here would be, what sort of services can you support?
I'm gonna say it really depends on the scenario and how much that you want ATC to be engaged.
Yep.
Goes back to the catering. We have 5 core areas of the business for ATC, being the voice, network, cloud, security, and data and AI. We can support in all of those buckets. There could be some scenarios where maybe the definition doesn't quite align with those core areas, but our team has enough experience and exposure to all of the things that we've seen in all of our years of working in the IT industry that we could even consult or make recommendations on something that's not quite within those buckets.
Not to mention the hospitality side of the house too, right?
Correct. Yeah, all industries, all verticals, if you will, including hospitality.
Perfect. So those are the services that you can support. What about who's contacting you? Is this end users? Is this IT leadership or just IT teams? How does that look from the client's perspective?
You're gonna think that I sound a little repetitive here. You're gonna find a pattern. It's catered to whatever the business, the clients want. So we have some clients where they don't want their IT teams working with end users. That's not how they want their IT team to be spending their time. They would rather their IT teams be focused on the business initiatives, pushing out any applications or security patching or whatever they need to do. They would rather that time be spent on business initiatives. And so we will take that over on their behalf. We will do any, password resets, or I have a new employee starting in 2 weeks. We just need to bring them on board. We'll take that over. There are other scenarios where we may have a client that already has a IT team that has workflows already established with their staff, whether that be in-house IT with their own ticketing system, or maybe even an outsourced IT team. And we will work as an extension of that team in the best way that we can fit in that workflow to their needs.
Got it. So if they want to outsource it, free up their plate, they can do that. If they want to have a little bit more control, us fold into their existing processes, we can do that as well.
Correct.
Got it. So then those tickets come in, we talked about like who can contact you, and when they do, are you an escalation pathway, or are you able to resolve tickets, on your own? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in most cases, about 80% of the time, we would be able to receive a request and be able to complete that on behalf of our clients. Some of it is going to be a little more complicated. We might actually have to have a provider subject matter expert or engineer involved. And in those cases, we actually have dedicated channels or pathways with those providers to get us ahead of the game. So for example, if I was company ABC and I needed to call into a provider, typically that experience is I pick up the phone, call 1-800 provider, and they're going to, the first 5-10 minutes is, who are you? What do you need? I'm going to take your information down, send it to someone else, and then they'll call you back to continue troubleshooting. The way that it works for super support is I've already kind of done that preliminary step on behalf of the providers. So they will give us a dedicated line into hire resources. And when they see the ATC name pop up on the caller ID, it tends to be like, okay, they've already checked all of these other boxes. We know that we got to do a different approach to this and get them the immediate help that they need. So in a way, we're an escalation contact or have escalation pathways that way. But in addition to that, let's say it's area wide where they are aware of it, they have teams doing it. We have separate contacts beyond just the normal support aspect that we can escalate to on a management perspective with that provider. So we have those pathways too. The third thing I would add to that is we have the relationships built with the providers. We have lunch and learns within the office. We have all of the amazing ATC events that a lot of providers are involved with there too. So within just those interpersonal relationships, there are times where we just have those personal connections with someone else in that business that we could utilize to help get things done.
Right. And I know we have, internal chats with these providers as well. So we come across an issue that we haven't seen, which can be rare. And we have internal chats with these providers to escalate that. Hey, this is a issue we're seeing, in a client's environment. Have you seen this? And we're talking with engineers from that provider who are either helping us resolve that, and sometimes we're bringing issues that they've never seen either and
Right.
driving, their technology roadmap and improvements that they're going to make to their product.
Yeah, correct. And we even have, sometimes they're quarterly, sometimes they're yearly. We'll have meetings with those providers to go over the roadmaps for the next year. And to also say, hey, we've got a product we want to go to industry. Can ATC be an expertise to kind of join in that beta and participate and give us feedback on how to make those tools better? And that's not something that most businesses are going to have in-house.
Right. Okay, so we talked a little bit about, I'll say, the more reactive approach to super support, which by nature, that tends to be, how you spend a lot of your time, folks calling in or issues being alerted and addressing those. But can you speak to some of the proactive side of support, which is uncommon, I would say, and what that looks like?
Correct. Yeah, that's definitely a differentiator for super support as well. Most support centers that you work with are only going to be reactive. They don't know it's a problem until it's a problem and you have told them about it. For super support, there are some tools out there, cloud-based providers, where they can have notifications. We have those typically set up to come to super support. So we're aware of the problem normally, sometimes even before your users even know it's a problem. Some of the other proactive initiatives not related to problems that we would work on, a perfect example that comes to my mind right now is the SMS 10 DLC registrations. That is something that shook the industry for all businesses. If you want to send an SMS to a client, you got to go through all of these different steps. And no one really had a good gauge on what the requirements were and what they were supposed to do to have those services enabled. And so ATC kind of took that on behalf of all of our clients, where we are doing all of the registrations on their behalf. And we've kind of become the expertise that they could lean on to understand, okay, what is this? How does it impact my business? What do my legal teams need to know when they have to make all of these changes, and help them through that process?
Yeah, and you're seeing that, there's provider A, B, C in the UCaaS space. And so we have these clients using this provider, these clients using this provider. So you have experience with, provider A and how the 10 DLC registration works, but then also with this provider. So it's just continually learning where, if you only do this once, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of hiccups and stumbling and it's a moving target, this specific example, but you get to learn from all these, however many times you've done it and kind of become a impromptu expert on the subject.
Correct. Yeah, you get to see the patterns across the industry, no matter the vendor, and say, actually, I have seen something similar, and this is how we can get around that, and just recognizing those patterns.
Did you mention educational training on that with?
No, so that's another great example. Some things that we may do just as initiatives is around educational content and training, either with IT technical teams and administration. This is how you go in and administer all of these tools and services that you have. Some of it could be to the end user on this is how you use that phone that you just got, or this is how you use that contact center service.
And then just double clicking on something that you touched on earlier is that it's not a displacement of the support from that specific provider. This isn't, a gap in the market that we saw of no one liking calling into their, support for the provider that they have, broadly speaking. And to come in and make this an enjoyable experience, not only have this service, that you're focusing on, but back that audit and assessment and having all this information in our CRM, having all the services and how they play together. So it's an overlay of support, but there's always that support with the provider still.
Correct. And I want to highlight that because we'll fit in however you want us to. We'll swim in our lane, if you will. But a lot of IT teams, they don't want to have to reach out to the providers. They don't want to have to spin their wheels doing, just getting updates on a ticket that was created. So we're really allowing them to reinvest their time to get back to the work that they want to do.
Okay. So we're closing in here. I wanted to bring back up the slide deck for the last few questions as we round out the webinar. I know this is important to you, so I wanted to bring it up, but your past employment prior to ATC, you have experience with customer support. How has that shaped your opinion on the work you and your team do today at ATC?
It has changed drastically. I'm very passionate about what we have built so far and the next steps that super support has on the docket going forward because of a lot of that experience with previous employers. I mean, that previous employer definitely had like the traditional sense of a contact center. I kind of mentioned it earlier where the purpose is you sit in a room, low cubicle walls, TVs in the front showing the stats of the queue. Your primary goal is to get on the phone, get information, very, very basics, move on. So a lot of what we have designed in super support, although it's great for a customer perspective, I want it to be extremely powerful for our own internal teams too. So we make sure that we have the partnership and the tools and the people on the ATC side to really help accomplish the goal of building into IT and uplifting everyone. Some of that is as simple as making sure that we have a great culture and people are afraid or not afraid to take risks or ask questions, and just really having a great tool in our tool belt. And so that has definitely influenced it. On the customer side, it's making sure that it's up to you, right? You don't have to fit the box of this is how we're telling you to reach out to us. This is the information you have to give to us. And if you don't have it, we're just going to kick it back and say, try again later. We're going to really empower you to do it how you want to do it. And we're going to accommodate to that.
Got it. So I think this leads nicely into the next question, just how seriously you take this, this role and how you are supporting the clients. But our CSAT score, customer satisfaction, and NPS, Net Promoter Scores, we update these quarterly in our email signatures on our website. It's something that we want to be transparent about, whether they're going up. We're obviously extremely proud of them, but whether they're going up or down, we want to be transparent because this is our gold standard. This is, what you and your team are driving towards all the time. So, talk to me a little bit about this and what the CSAT and NPS scores mean to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very proud to have these scores. These are not found in the industry. normally you don't even see them in the double digits for the industry. So for us to have 99.2 for customer satisfaction survey and 85 for the NPS, it's kind of proof in the pudding. What we're doing, how we're doing it the right way, right? We don't cut corners ever. And this is proof that our methodologies and our processes and our expertise and our partnerships are doing right by the client.
Perfect. And then lastly, before I check for some more questions, if anything came through, but how can everyone reach you and your team?
Yeah, so again, this is completely up to you how you reach out to us, but there's 4 ways that you can reach out to Super Support. You can call 513-323-8000. You can text us, that's SMS and MMS in the event that we need pictures or video. You can send an email to supersupport@4atc.com, or you can visit our website at 4atc.com. There is a chat option at the bottom right-hand corner. All of these methods come to the same group of people and they have the same response times, response rates. It's 100% up to you on the method that you choose to reach out to us.
Perfect. I didn't see any questions come through on the chat, and with just a couple minutes left here, we'll go ahead and close things out. I want to thank everyone for jumping on the webinar today. Really appreciate your time and attention. I want to thank our marketing team, Alexis behind the scenes, helping run this and drive the show for us. Thanks, Brandi, for coming in, telling us a little bit more about Super Support.
Thank you for letting me talk about it. I could do it for ages.
Yeah. and all you do to take care of our clients, day in and day out. So thanks again, everyone, for jumping on. There will be a survey that comes out after this, some email communication, talking about future webinars that are to come. And again, a survey about how we did and what you might want to hear more about in future conversations. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll talk soon.